All right. Obviously, since Friday night, I've had a chance just to, reiterate how much I appreciate all the guys putting good work to get into Lincoln and pull off what we did. Our offensive MVPs were a slew of guys: Pat Bryant, Tanner Heckel, Josh McCray on the offensive line. We gave it to J.C. Melvin, Cruzy, and B. Henderson, who was a pseudo/tight end. And then Luke Altmaier again played another phenomenal game. I thought it was Proby today. He was also named co-Big Ten offensive MVP, and then also put on the grade 8 for the O'Brien top quarterbacks in the nation and put on the list for the rest of the year, which super excited for him and where he is. Plus, I saw he just came across with a Jim Rome interview opportunity, so he's getting some national allure. Defensive MVPs, D. Rose, Seth, all three outside linebackers, Seth, Gabe, and Alec, Dennis Briggs inside, along with T-Raw. And then both offensively and defensively, we gave the entire look team MVPs just because really challenged them to put on the best look that we could to simulate Nebraska. They've been doing a really good job through 3 games, but going into Big Ten play, there's just certain things that every team does that we ask them to emulate sometimes. Just early on in life, someone told me one time, right, never put another man's name on your back, right? So I've never worn a jersey. I've never worn a customized jersey of any other person, but during the course of the week, we ask our guys to wear the numbers of the person they're representing, right? And I always tell them, take pride in how you do things and what you do to kind of give us the best opportunity to win on Saturday. So that was really huge and apparent from us last week, not only our look team players, but our look team coaches. This new rule that allows us to have all of our young coaches and an analyst coach has just been, it's invaluable in our preparation, just cruelly amazing. We'll probably talk a little bit about that during the bye week, but just the work our young coaches and some of these first-year coaches in our program have done just absolutely amazing. Special teams MVP, huge just for not only his punts, but also he had an erratic snap that he pulled down was really, really critical and clutch play. They didn't get a lot of snaps, but the snaps they played, Tanner Heckel and Jaheim Clark, were absolutely outstanding. They were really a huge part of our final special teams MVP, Hank Beatty, who had basically 3 returns, averaged over 20-yard a return, almost took one to the house. We sniped him. Barna got knocked back and kind of knocked him down, but otherwise he probably would have had one go to the house. Obviously had a little adversity early in the game, and just we always talk and preach is not what happens, how you react to what happens. And Hank Beatty comes from incredible stock, mom and dad, great people, from a Rochester program that is obviously second to none. To have a high school coach that reached 200 wins as quick as Derek had, you just know what that program's all about, and he's brought that same thing here to our program. So just super excited for Hank. I think he's starting to get something special. Our look team MVPs on special teams, Blaine Sisson and Sage Luther, a transfer, and it's done an awesome job down the look team. So really, really excited about the week behind us, right? Stayed out of it pretty healthy. Henry Boyer was kind of right on the verge of playing. We actually traveled him. It's been my policy pretty much, if you're not going to play, you're not going to travel. But want to give Henry a chance to get cleared. He couldn't get cleared in time for the game, but should be with us tomorrow at practice. T. Strain and Aiden Lawfrey played extremely well for the reps I got in there. Didn't have any setbacks with them. So had a couple guys get some soft tissue things just during the game, but nobody of significance. Everybody Zakaria was cleared to go back in the way we ran in overtime. Didn't need it, but and then also defensively had a couple guys were out momentarily, but brought them back. So that's behind us. A tremendous opportunity this week. Play a top 10 team on the road. Obviously, an environment that is one of the best in college football, an offense that has a new coordinator, as Aaron mentioned, right? Like a lot of familiarity with their offensive coordinator coming from Kansas to where he is. I heard Aaron said that he learned a lot of football by going against this guy. I wish he would have just asked me. I could have helped him out. But from now on, I'll call the other coordinator to tell my defense what to do. But just a lot of really good growth. I think in preparation for this game, you see a lot of things, but he also carries a lot of the Penn State traditions. Obviously, James, in his background, they're using multiple quarterbacks. I think offensive line from tackle to tackle is probably the best group that we've played. Some are a little bit new to the game, inexperienced, but very, very talented players. By far, tackle to tackle, the best group we faced. We have a group of tight ends, wide receivers, and running backs that are above average to elite players in the Big Ten Conference. Defensively, I just have a huge I've loved Coach Allen ever since I've been around him and what he brings to the table, and to bring over his experience, and obviously we've gone against Indiana the last several years. You see a little bit of that, but also a little carryover from what they've done there. They're extremely talented, especially on the edges defensively, on all three levels, up front, on the linebacker core, and the secondary. Very, very gifted. To have some wrinkles in the kicking game. They got a couple lefties sprinkled in amongst their specialists. So, it'll be an environment that hopefully, one of the things you gain with experience is the ability to do better, right? And obviously we did a lot of good things Friday night in Lincoln, but this will be taking it to whole nother level. Did want to also say thanks to Matt Rule. Just, I know I didn't find out until afterwards that he had reached out to Aaron. Just shows the kind of person he is, the kind of man he was, to reach out to him. And I didn't ask what the note was or said, but I know it meant a lot to Aaron, and just a tremendous respect for that program. Obviously got a W and all that goes into it, but Matt's all about the game, his journey and our journey. We've kind of had some multiple stops, and to really get a chance to be around his program, huge respect. That was a great environment on Friday night, and that crowd and that team and that organization, their fan base, have a lot to be proud of. I'm sure they're going to be very successful the rest of the year. So with that, open it up.
I got a two-parter for you, quick one.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to play for work for an AD who played here at the school that you're working at? That's first. What's that mean for you?
I've said it all along. In my experience as a head coach, I was very blessed. In my first head coaching opportunity, I played for a guy that, even though he didn't play at Wisconsin, Coach Alvarez played for Nebraska, right? And to have that as an athletic director, I just kind of thought that was a norm. I didn't realize that was the exception. And so, as I journeyed to other places, I've kind of always tracked to kind of get back to that type of partnership. And Josh, to walk the walk here, to every day when I get off that elevator, his face is smiling there, 2 spots for the academic All-American role. And to have someone in that role, so he obviously balanced into playing the NFL for, I believe it was 6 different teams, over a 5-year window. It's not just someone that kind of played here and was okay. He was exceptional, right? And then to throw that into the experiences he's had, I think we're always molded by the experiences we've been through. And Josh had the NFL experience, then he got into the law school, and obviously went into the working world outside of football, and then went to the small school, background in administration, both in Wisconsin and St. Louis, and then to get his dream moment here, to walk with him daily. It was, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. So Friday we get done, and obviously a great locker room, but we, ever since last week, right, we've been tracking the weather, right, and it kept getting pushed back, and I remember Mark Torsani, my chief of staff, said, hey, really probably not going to have any problems until after the game, and I'm like, oh, perfect, right? So we get there, and I told the locker room after the game, I said, hey, as fast as you can get ready, let's get on it and get home, to get a chance to get back to Champaign and avoid some weather. And we literally got on the plane, sat down, and it got fogged over here in Champaign, and we basically sat on the runway for a couple hours. I know I didn't walk into my house, so I came right from the airport to home, and I think it was after 4, and I imagine a lot of our players. So for 2 hours or however long, I was next to Josh, and we had chatted on the way over on Thursday, but to win the game in that environment and to get a couple hours on the plane next year, AD, and we talked about things coming up. We talked about during our bye week. We talked about things in the horizon. He and I are both heavily involved in administration. That's pretty special. Is that too long? Let's go.
One more part. How quickly did that relationship develop? Was immediate? Were you quickly, right away in sync?
Yeah, I would go back. I think the first time, I always say this, right? I do think first impressions last a lifetime, and I literally think the first time I ever met Josh, we were in Arizona. I was a head coach, I believe, at Wisconsin. Might have been at Arkansas. Had to be at Arkansas, probably. And we were at Biltmore Hotel. He was getting a cup of coffee. I was getting a cup of coffee. Although he doesn't drink coffee, maybe he was getting a bottle of water, knowing him. And we kind of just bumped, right? And I remember I'm like, dude, that's a big dude, right? Like he's AD at Illinois, yada, yada. And then as this thing kind of played out, the year before I got the job here, I was in the NFL, and I'd always kind of had an idea that this is a place that it would, for me personally, would be an idea that I just had always recruited against Illinois. And I played here. I thought it was interesting. Bret gives us a bunch of stats, but the last time there was a top 20 matchup on the road for Illinois was in 1991, number 16, number 14, whatever it was. Was that what it was? 15, 13. I was at the University of Iowa as a player in 1991, and they were obviously here. And for that to happen, the last time this happened was when I was in college. That shows how long it's been. But I knew this place had that ability if you could get it to flip, right? And literally when Josh reached out to me that first night, I came downstairs. My wife and I were ecstatic. the next day, I think the next day I met with the chancellor, and then Friday it happened, and it was pretty instant. And I would just say, in my professional life, to share this walk with him, like on a daily, just even if we don't see each other, it's usually probably daily communication about, hey, just reaching out, how you doing? Shoot, last year I know during certain times of our out of season, like I know he was going through things, right? I know how hard that basketball situation was to navigate through, and I know how much he cares for our student athletes. So I reached out to him several times. It's an awesome relationship, and one that hopefully continues and grows for years to come.
Coach, there seems to be a pretty good coach-player relationship between Barry Lunny and Luke Altmaier.
Mm-hmm.
How important has that been for Luke's development and for the improvement of the offense?
Yeah, I say all the time in our building, every time as a coach, when you're interacting with a player, whether he plays for you or plays for someone other position, other side of the ball, every conversation you have, you're either building or tearing down a relationship. And I think Barry has been very intentional in his relationship with Luke since we started recruiting him, going through last season, and then definitely from January on, just the intentionality that Barry poured into him about the things that need to be better. And to be honest, the openness and the eagerness and the I would say just the vulnerability that Luke showed to grow in this past out of season has just been paid back tenfold, not just with our coaches, with our players. So yeah, I think Luke's kind of the opposite of Barry in the fact that like Luke is a very kind of calm. Barry, he gets a little bit rattled or like a little bit jittery, and he'll let you know that he's excited. There was a moment on Saturday where our coach the player got a little sideways, and Barry was extremely frustrated, and I saw Luke give one of these, and then they just signaled into plays and handled that moment. We scored a touchdown. I think the presence, those two really come together pretty nicely.
Bret, to dovetail off that, I got to give Pat Bryant credit after this game because he said that he thought the tablets have been a game changer for Luke in the sense of there's not an I think or I know anymore, or I feel anymore. There's an I know what happened here, or I know what's going to work here. Have you gotten that sense too?
Oh, incredibly. And even go back to, the first time we could use them was last spring, and the person that came and brought our tablets had come from three other Big Ten teams that had used or had attempted to use tablets during the spring, and we had a whole plan. We met as a staff, we met as players. We showed them how to use them, and that person made reference to Joe Maggio. He said, like, listen, I don't know what's going on in other places. All I know is that what had happened in three other places before I got here, and you guys by far had the best setup, plan, action, and the players were engaged. They were fighting over the tablets. I literally was in a brief meeting today with our personnel department, Jay Kaiser, who I've been with Jay since we actually ironically met back at K-State. He was in the NFL for a number of years with both the Dolphins and the Buccaneers. And Jay, because we're on the road, we have personnel start to hand out tablets. And he was talking about he was in charge of inside and outside backers handing out tablets, and how the players just immediately took the tablets, and as soon as a coach put one down, they picked it up. And we're watching not only plays they were in, but plays they weren't in. So I think the learning curve of our guys, the testimonial to who they believe in, is at a high that they probably never even thought of, and they probably aren't aware of it. They just think it goes on everywhere else, but I promise you it doesn't.
But after the